Children, this is the continuation of lesson hydrosphere. And now let us have a quick recap what we learnt yesterday in the previous video. We learned the definition of hydrosphere, what is hydrological cycle we learnt, and we also learnt about the 6 stages of water cycle: precipitation, condensation, runoff, groundwater, transportation. All these are 6 stages of hydrological cycle. And we learnt about the water resources, oceans, the features of ocean floor, relief features of the ocean, that is continental shelf, continental slope, deep sea plain, ocean deep. And we also learnt about the major ocean trenches, the deepest points of the oceans, and the definitions of isotherms, isobars, isohydrates, isohalines, and isobars. This is what we learnt in the previous part of the lesson. Now let us continue the lesson. Today the first topic is salinity of the oceans. What is this salinity? Why the seawater is saline? The total content of the dissolved salts in the seawater is called salinity. The total content of the dissolved salts in the seawater is called salinity. And do you know why this seawater is saline or salty? Much of the fresh water in the form of rainfall is received by the oceans, and all the rivers also join the seas finally. Even then, the seawater is saline, and this is because most of the salt in the oceans or seas comes from the land. Over millions of years, rain, rivers, streams have washed over rocks containing sodium chloride and carried it into the sea. And it is a continuous process even now. And that is why the seawater became saline. And this salinity of the seawater is expressed in parts per thousand, PPT. That means parts per thousand. Normal salinity of the seawater is 35 PPT. 35 PPT means 35 parts per thousand. That means every 1000 grams of seawater contains 35 grams of salts. All the seawater contains large amounts of dissolved mineral matter also, of which sodium chloride alone constitutes 77.8%. The seawater contains many other dissolved mineral matter, but out of these, sodium chloride constitutes the major part. That is 77.8% is sodium chloride only. Do you know, children, how much sodium chloride does the river water contain? It contains 2 parts per thousand of sodium chloride. That means every 1000 grams of river water contains 2 grams of salt. That is to say that the river water contains 2 parts per thousand of sodium chloride. Now this salinity is not the same in all the oceans. It differs from one ocean to the other, and the factors that affect this, even within the same ocean also, from one part to another part also, this salinity differs. And the factors that affect this salinity in the surface layers of the ocean are: first one is evaporation. Due to evaporation, the salinity differs from place to place. How it differs? Based on evaporation. As you know, due to sun's heat, the water in the ocean gets evaporated. And if this evaporation takes place more and more, the salinity of the ocean increases as the salts remain in the ocean water only, and only water gets evaporated. Salts remain in the ocean itself and the water gets evaporated. So, more the evaporation, more will be the salinity. In this way, evaporation affects the salinity of the ocean. If more evaporation takes place, salinity of the ocean will be more. The second one is precipitation. Precipitation, it mainly occurs in the form of rainfall. Now let us see how it affects the salinity of the oceans. Salinity also depends on the amount of rainwater that reaches the oceans. if more and more precipitation takes place, more rainwater joins the seas, and this rainwater is fresh water. So the salinity decreases. So more the precipitation or rainfall, less will be the salinity. If more rainfall occurs, the salinity of the ocean water decreases because more fresh water joins the seas and oceans. And the third one, in coastal regions, rivers join the seas. The river water is fresh water, that already we know. If more number of rivers join the sea, the salinity decreases. I am giving you an example for this. If you take half a glass of water and add salt to it, it will be salty. And if you add some fresh water to it, some more fresh water to it, the saltiness will decrease. In the same way, when more fresh water joins the seas and oceans, the salinity decreases. Fourth factor which influences the salinity of the ocean is in polar regions, due to melting of ice, more fresh water joins the seas and oceans, due to which the salinity decreases. If these ice caps melt or glaciers melt, all these come under fresh water only. They will join the seas and oceans and the salinity decreases. And fifth factor is, as you know, children, winds transfer water in the direction in which they are blowing. When wind blows in the same direction, it carries away the water also. The surface water of the ocean is carried away by the winds in the direction in which they blow. If water is transferred from a part of the ocean where the salinity is more, then the salinity in that part of the ocean decreases, and in the part of the ocean where it is transferred, the salinity increases. I am repeating this point once again. Winds transfer water in the direction in which they are blowing, and if water is transferred from a part of the ocean where the salinity is more, then the salinity in that part of the ocean decreases, and in the part of the ocean where it is to which place it is transferred, the salinity increases. And the last factor which influences the salinity of the oceans is due to the ocean currents. The salinity decreases or increases because ocean current is the movement of ocean water only. When the ocean water moves in big streams from one place to another place in the same direction, it is called as ocean current. And when this ocean water moves in big streams from one place to another place, naturally the salinity is also transferred. That means from a place where the salinity is more, if the ocean current starts from there and carries the ocean water in big streams to another place, then in that place the salinity will decrease, and in another place where the ocean current is moving, to which place the ocean current is moving, the salinity will increase. Now these are the factors which influence the salinity of the oceans. Now let us see the highest and lowest salinity in water bodies and where they are found and how much it is. You can see the slide here. Highest salinity is in water bodies is found in Lake Van. This Lake Van is in Turkey, and the salinity of the Lake Van is 330 parts per thousand. You can see how we write parts per thousand here. Just for percent we have to add another 0 there. In Lake Van, highest salinity is found. It is in Turkey, and the salinity of Lake Van, Turkey is 330 parts per thousand. And Dead Sea it is in Jordan, Israel, and in Dead Sea 238 parts per thousand. Salinity is 238 parts per thousand. This is the second highest salinity. And third one is Great Salt Lake. This Great Salt Lake is in USA, and its salinity is 220 parts per thousand. Now let us see the lowest salinity in water bodies. Baltic Sea, it has the lowest salinity, that is 3 to 15 parts per thousand. And Hudson Bay, which is near North America, that is also having the same lowest salinity, that is 3 to 15 parts per thousand. So the lowest salinity is found in Baltic Sea and Hudson Bay also. Now let us see why Baltic Sea has the lowest salinity. I am going to explain it now. Baltic Sea, do you know the location of Baltic Sea? It is located in between Sweden, Finland. Sweden and Finland, Baltic Sea is located, and more than 200 rivers, they join this Baltic Sea. As you know, all the rivers, they join the sea only, finally. But in this Baltic Sea, more than 200 rivers, they join the Baltic Sea. Because river water is fresh water, the Baltic Sea's salinity has decreased. It is the lowest salinity. That is one of the most important reason why Baltic Sea has the lowest salinity, because more than 200 rivers join the Baltic Sea. And the second reason is this Baltic Sea is connected to the Atlantic Ocean through a narrow channel. So the same water remains in the Baltic Sea for a long time, because this water cannot move into the Atlantic Ocean and they cannot mix up. Atlantic Ocean water and this Baltic Sea water cannot mix up so easily because they are connected by a very narrow channel. So the same water remains in this Baltic Sea for long time. That is another reason. And the third reason is because it is near to the Arctic region, melting of ice. Because of melting of ice, more and more fresh water joins in the Baltic Sea. These are the reasons why the Baltic Sea has the lowest salinity. Now, ocean temperature. When compared to land, the temperature in oceans does not show much variations. On land, we can see many variations. In one place, it is highest temperature, lowest temperature. Many variations are there on land surface. But in the oceans, these variations are not much variations are there in temperature. But these little variations have great impact on the climate. Though there are very little variations in temperature of the ocean water, these little variations have great impact on the climate. And this point I will explain at the end of the chapter under the heading El Nino and La Nino. Now, let us see the ocean temperature. Normally, the temperature in the ocean, surface water of the ocean, varies from minus 2 degrees to 29 degrees Celsius. And vertical distribution of temperature decreases deep inside the oceans. The fall in temperature is very steep for the first kilometer. First kilometer, the fall in the temperature is very steep. After that, there is a steady decline up to a depth of 5 kilometers. 1 to 5 kilometers, there is a steady decline. Slowly it declines up to a depth of 5 kilometers, and below 5 kilometers, the temperature is steady at about 2 degrees Celsius. Without any changes, it is steady at about 2 degrees Celsius. Now, ocean currents. You might have learnt about these ocean currents in your previous classes. Even then, I am just defining these ocean currents. The general movement of mass of water in the ocean in big streams in a defined direction, in a definite direction over great distances is called ocean current. When the ocean water moves in big streams in a definite direction over great distances, it is called as ocean current. Based on temperature, there are two types of ocean currents, and they are warm ocean currents and cold ocean currents. Warm ocean currents, these are the ocean currents which move from the equator towards the poles, either to the North Pole or the South Pole. When ocean currents move from equator towards North Pole or South Pole, they are called as warm ocean currents. For example, Gulf Stream. Gulf Stream, it moves along the east coast of North America. Brazil Current, it moves along the east coast of South America. Now, cold ocean currents, these are the ocean currents which move from the poles towards the equator. They are called as cold ocean currents. From North Pole or South Pole, if the ocean currents move towards the equator, they are called as cold ocean currents. Example, Labrador Ocean Current. This Labrador Ocean Current moves along the coast of Greenland. And Canary Current, it moves along the northwestern part of Africa, northwestern coast of Africa. Venezuela Current, it moves along the west coast of Africa. Now this is about the types of ocean currents based on the temperature, warm ocean currents and cold ocean currents, and these are the examples. Now, based on speed, ocean currents are classified into two types. What are they? Stream. First one is stream. Ocean currents which move speedily is called stream. Which moves with great speed is called a stream. For example, Gulf Stream. And drift. Ocean current which moves slowly, it is called as drift. And for this, an example is North Atlantic Drift Ocean Current. And this North Atlantic Drift Ocean Current, it moves along the west coast of Europe. During winter, it moves along the west coast of Europe. And so far, we learnt what are ocean currents, what are the different types of ocean currents based on temperature and speed. Now let us see what are the factors that cause the ocean currents. There are 4 factors that cause these ocean currents. And they are centrifugal force, effects of winds, precipitation, and solar energy. These are the 4 factors that cause the ocean currents. Now let us see one by one. Centrifugal force. The centrifugal force at the equator is greater than at the poles. That is because when the earth revolves round the sun, the great circles which are formed, they coincide with the equator. And that is why water near the equator moves towards the poles. Either to the North Pole or to the South Pole it moves. So this movement of water is called as ocean current. I am repeating once again. The centrifugal force at the equator is greater than at the poles. And that is because when the earth revolves round the sun, the great circles which are formed, they coincide with the equator. And that is why water from the equator moves towards North Pole or South Pole, and this movement of water is called as ocean currents. Now the second factor which causes ocean currents is effects of winds. Wind makes the ocean water move in the direction in which it blows. That already we know. If the speed of the wind is 50 miles per hour, such a wind produces an ocean current whose velocity is 0.75 miles per hour. If the speed of the wind is 50 miles per hour, such a wind can produce an ocean current whose velocity is 0.75 miles per hour. Now the third factor is precipitation. In and around the equator, there is a low pressure area which is called as doldrums or ITCZ. ITCZ means Intertropical Convergence Zone. Doldrums is the low pressure area in and around the equator. And wherever there is low pressure on the Earth's surface, it leads to heavy rainfall. Low pressure indicates heavy rainfall. So low pressure areas receive more rainfall. So the equatorial region receives very heavy rainfall almost throughout the year. Almost every day in the afternoon, there is heavy rainfall in equatorial region. And towards night again, the rain stops. But every day in the afternoon, it rains compulsorily. 365 days almost. And because of this heavy rainfall throughout the year, the water level at equator is higher than at the poles. Because every day it rains, the water level increases at the equator. And when the water level is increased at the equator, the water naturally moves from the equator towards the poles, either the North Pole or the South Pole. And this movement of water only is called as ocean current. And the fourth factor is solar energy. Solar energy, when water gets heated up, it expands. And as we know already, the sun's rays directly fall on the equator. So water near the equator gets heated up more and expands more. And that is why water level near the equator is 8 centimeters higher in level near the equator than the other latitudes. When the water level is higher near the equator, naturally water moves from equator towards north and south poles. And some other factors which influence ocean currents are salinity, density differences, and melting of ice also. These are some other factors which also influence the ocean currents. Now, oceans as a resource. That means how these oceans are useful to the mankind. They are useful in many ways. They provide us seafoods. They are the source of livelihood for many people. Many people depend on the oceans for their livelihood. Many people from ancient times, these oceans have been the source of livelihood for many people. And they provide salt, they provide sand, gravel for our industries or for house constructions. And they also provide minerals like chlorine, iodine, etc. And they are useful for generating tidal energy, and even the sea waves are used for generating energy. Petroleum and oil also we get from the ocean floor. And we get gems and pearls. And these oceans are the cheapest means of transport. These are the cheapest means of transport, and these are the means of international trade also. And civilizations, many civilizations developed on these ocean shores, seashores only. And there are some other things which are available on the ocean floor. They are manganese nodules. Have you heard of manganese nodules? These manganese nodules, they look like potatoes, and they are found on the ocean floor. And these manganese nodules are of great economic importance because they contain enough cobalt, nickel, and copper. And if all these manganese nodules which are available on the ocean floor, if they are extracted, they will last for thousands of years to come. So many manganese nodules are available on the ocean floor. And they are of great economic importance because they contain a lot of cobalt, nickel, and copper. Now, in spite of getting these many benefits from the ocean, we the human beings are exploiting the oceans also. And many large fish like whales have been disappearing. We have made these oceans also as dumping grounds for our plastic and other forms of waste. In this way, we are causing harm to the oceans and the wealth which we are getting from the oceans. And now see the map. Here in this map, warm ocean currents and cold ocean currents are shown. Warm ocean currents are indicated by red arrows, and cold ocean currents are indicated by blue arrows. I am giving you one or two examples just to go through the map. Gulf Stream. Gulf Stream, it is warm ocean current. It moves along the east coast of North America. You can see in the map. In the same way, Labrador current. Labrador current, it is a cold ocean current. It is shown in blue, and it moves along the coast of Greenland. You can see in the map. In the same way, Canary current along the northwestern coast of Africa. It is cold ocean current. Benguela current, again along the west coast of Africa. It is also cold ocean current. And Brazil current, it is warm ocean current. It moves along the east coast of South America. So like that, all the warm and cold ocean currents are shown in this map. With the help of this map, I have given you some work, project work, to complete it. Given in the page 34 of the textbook. With the help of this map, you have to complete that table. Now, I told you I will be explaining about El Nino and La Nino at the end of the chapter. Now, I am going to take up that topic, El Nino and La Nino. Last but not the least, the topic is El Nino and La Nino, and these two, La Nino and El Nino, these are the effects caused due to changes in the temperature of Central and Eastern Pacific Ocean. And once in every 4 or 5 years, when the waters of Eastern and Central Pacific Ocean become warm or cold, these effects are caused. I am repeating once again. These two, El Nino and La Nino, are the effects caused due to the changes in the temperature of Central and Eastern Pacific Ocean. Once in every 4 or 5 years, when the waters of eastern and central Pacific Ocean become warm or cold, these effects are caused. El Nino is known as small boy and La Nino is known as small girl. Now let us see what are the effects of these El Nino and La Nino. When the effect El Nino is caused, it weakens the southwest monsoons. As you know, in India, all the regions get good rainfall due to southwest monsoons. And if these southwest monsoons are weakened due to El Nino, India may get erratic rainfall. That means no rainfall or very less rainfall. On the other hand, La Nino strengthens the southwest monsoons. So, India may get good or enough rainfall. So, La Nino is beneficial for India and El Nino proves to be harmful. Now, that is the end of the lesson, children. Now, I am going to give you some homework. Read full lesson, underlining all the important points with pencil. Complete the blanks and MCQs in the material with the help of textbook. And learn all the 1 mark and 2 mark questions and write without seeing from front part of the book. And with the help of map in page number 35, complete the project work given in page 34 of the textbook. This is the end of the lesson.